Hello, dear Max friends. After a while, we are back with a new interview. Today is a very special day as we would like to introduce you to Roi Ariel, who is General Manager at the Global Sustainable Tourism Council. As some of you already know, we did a training in October last year in sustainable tourism because we were talking to many event companies in Scandinavia, and we were seeing that they were getting trainings and certification in sustainable tourism. So in order to be on the same level and have more knowledge about the topic, we decided to do this training together with the GSTC. Roi Ariel, who is the General Manager of the Global Sustainable Tourism Council and has been focusing on responsible travel and sustainable tourism over the past decade. The Global Sustainable Tourism Council manages the GSTC criteria, global standards for sustainable travel and tourism. GSTC also provides international accreditation for sustainable tourism certification bodies. So, hello, Roy.
Hi, Valeska. Thank you for inviting me.
It's very nice to see you again online and get to know how the GSTC supports sustainable tourism development and which destinations are leading in sustainability and taking a closer look at them. So, let's start the interview. How does the Global Sustainable Tourism Council function and how does it support the global travel industry?
So you mentioned it at the beginning, the core activity and the core focus of the GSTC, the Global Sustainable Tourism Council, is the GSTC criteria. And I would say that the first thing is that development of international standards and managing them. A second aspect that we deal with is providing assurance for sustainable tourism, and that's the recognition of other standards that include the GSTC criteria in them, and accreditation of certification bodies. Third aspect would be making destinations more sustainable. So we have in 2013 developed the GSTC destination criteria. So until that time, the GSTC criteria was only used by the industry, by businesses of tour operators, accommodations, and many other types of business tourism businesses. But since 2013, we began using the GSTC destination criteria by destinations. So we work closely with NTOs and DMOs on applying this and so forth. Another key aspect is that we promote market access, where we work closely with prominent OTAs. You probably have seen some of the recent media announcement about our collaboration with Booking.com or perhaps with Agoda or with MAXinterview and so forth, and with other large tour operators and travel providers like TUI, Airbnb, and others. And the fifth, and that's something that I'm personally aware, is the increasing knowledge. So besides just managing the criteria and working with governments and working with large businesses, large and small, we also make sure that we have these educational programs to make sure that other professionals in the tourism industry are aware of it and know how to use the GSTC criteria. And I'd just like to finish the answer to this question by saying that the criteria and everything we do, it's not necessarily focused only on leisure travel, but also business travel. So we just combine everything together. Because a hotel that serves tourists that come, let's say, to Barcelona, not necessarily says, hey, are you coming here for leisure or for business? They welcome anyone. So it's really crucial to understand that we're dealing with both issues.
So what other services or benefits do you offer to destinations or tourism businesses once they become members?
Well, first, maybe I can clarify that membership and certification of destinations and businesses are different things. GSTC does not certify directly. That's the job of certification bodies. So when we refer to membership with the GSTC, it means engagement and being part of the Global Sustainable Tourism Council. So we have members like Turismo de Portugal, Switzerland Tourism. In Spain, the cities of Valencia and Sevilla are GSTC members. We also have members like Airbnb, Booking, Agoda, TUI, and Amex GBT. But saying these large ones, we also have members that include academia, such as universities, NGOs and civil societies, and of course, small businesses and individuals. And the most important thing is that we all strive to achieve better practices in sustainable tourism. So saying that, we can refer to the GSTC membership as kind of a platform to engage with others when working towards more sustainability. And of course, engagement with the Secretariat in a professional manner. We also run webinars, exclusive webinars for our members about relevant up-to-date topics, annual meetings, and offer useful resources. By the way, once in a while, we make these webinars public. And I think we're planning for March a public webinar about sustainable business travel. So later on, I will share with you the link, which is I welcome anyone who deals with business travel to attend and listening and learn.
Okay. Is it focused to business travel or to corporate events?
This is going to be about managers of business travel within corporates.
Okay. But I will share it in my social medias when it's online. For professionals in the tourism industry, we see the usage of terms such as certification and accreditation. What is the difference between certification and accreditation, and why is accreditation important? Can you give us some examples?
Yeah, this is a great question because recently I just received a few days ago an inquiry to my email by a person that is trying to understand some issues, and I see that they just mix all of the terms. And it's not that it's not necessarily their fault. It's just that we, in a colloquial manner, when we speak, we usually kind of mix between these terms. But if we look into technical aspects of these issues, they actually have, each one has an important specific meaning. So when we say certification, according to ISO standards and national standard bureaus, certification is defined as a voluntary third-party assessment through an audit of a tourism enterprise or destination for conformity to a standard. So in a sense, certifications help to verify claims if a business, if a destination is indeed sustainable. Then comes the question, would any certification mean the same thing? How do we choose actually a certification body? I mean, the range is enormous. We have rigorous and impartial and excellent to frankly poor. So defining accreditation would be, in the GSTC case, GSTC accreditation is a mark of quality that verifies the process of how certification bodies certify businesses in a competent and neutral manner. So we sometimes refer to it as certifying the certifiers. This means that the certification process itself, how the certification was given, was it that so-called certification body that said, hey, friend, I'll give it to you for free or whatever? Or is it actually done in procedures that meet international principles for transparency, impartiality, and competence? I've been seeing over the past few months quite an interest by legal firms to identify those businesses that make false claims with lower assurance levels. So I would say it's something that's worth to look out for in the next year or two. I believe that we will see a few legal cases coming up because of this poor assurance level and usage of low quality certification programs.
I just have a question in my mind. Do you think that most of the companies do get certifications and accreditations because now it's something that you can sell better because of a marketing issue, or really because they believe that this is the way to go?
That's a difficult thing to answer. It would be just my own assumption rather than perspective. I frankly, my personal view on that is that I mostly care about the results. So if a business has decided to become certified because they think it makes their operation less expensive, great. I mean, if they do the same work as if another company that says this is the most important thing to do in the world, and if I want to operate a for-profit business, I need to make sure that I conform to certain standards, and this is why they do it, that's great. And I can give a few examples of that that we have seen, because one of the things that I mentioned to you is that we deal with market access issues. We work with other companies that help to influence the supply chain. So we see companies, let's say cruise lines, that collaborate and contract with tour operators when for shore excursions. When they have a preference for those that are certified as sustainable, it automatically cuts down a lot of the marketing costs for those tour operators. And if they operate on Monday and Tuesday when they serve the cruise ship, they operate in a sustainable manner. Of course, that on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, they will also operate in a sustainable manner, and that influences others. And so it's a great question. I personally prefer to focus on the end result if it happens, and then just find these two ways. One is to push and influence those that care more about the marketing, the financial benefits to it, and also support those that want to do it because it's the right thing to do.
How has your view on sustainability and tourism changed over the years?
Well, I actually began, I started when I did a research in this crossroad between sustainability and tourism while writing my BA thesis. And I decided to write about elephants and economic developments. I was searching for something fun about elephants, and I started reading, and I realized that there is this thing called ecotourism. And eventually I wrote and researched, and I found a lot of material on back then dealing with the MDGs, the Millennium Development Goals, on how ecotourism can actually help achieve some of the MDGs. And that was actually my main focus for a few years. And then when in 2014, when I was working on green economy criteria and green business checklist for an NGO in Israel, Jordan, and the Palestinian territories, I first came across the GSTC criteria. And then at that time, I actually understood that there's a little bit difference when we speak about ecotourism and we speak about sustainable tourism. So ecotourism is a very specific niche segment of tourism within natural areas, while sustainable tourism doesn't really refer to a specific type of tourism. It's actually an aspiration for all impacts of tourism to be more sustainable. So all forms of tourism can and should be more sustainable. And in that sense, that's what the GSTC criteria is for. So I remember a few years ago, I actually did a bit of research and I was looking for data if there is actually some statistics about ecotourism. And I realized that many times it's just false claims about it. It's the largest growing segment of tourism and so forth. So I slowly in the past few years realized that personally, my focus and interest is just sustainability in all forms of tourism. Each type of tourism has its own merits to it, but each one can be more sustainable.
Okay. And in which regions of the world do you see most interest and momentum for tourism sustainability? Because there are probably difference between also Europe and Asia and America. Yeah, maybe you can also explain us a little bit about this.
So as a rule of thumb, I would say that countries and cities that are doing the best are those that are actually working on sustainability broadly, not just focus on the sustainability in tourism, but actually sustainability for the residents and visitors' well-being alike. And therefore, because they are doing that, then also another aspect, which is tourism, would be more sustainable. But if you were to ask me this specific question 2 years ago, I would probably answer differently. And that's because 2 years ago, I would say Northern Europe, from Germany to the Netherlands and all these Scandinavian countries, are probably at the forefront of sustainable tourism practices because of what I just mentioned, because they see issues related to sustainability in a holistic manner And tourism is just another social, economic activity, just like for the residents living in these areas. But over the past 2 years, I think that we can see a momentum of many countries and destinations that began addressing these issues of sustainable tourism in a more systemic manner. Just a few examples outside of that region. So Japan Tourism Agency recently formally adopted the GSTC criteria, and as part of its tourism policy, they have trained already tens of destinations to use their Japan version of the criteria. And they're planning tens of more such destinations in the coming year and in the next 2 years and so forth. Sri Lanka Tourism Development Authority has established a national sustainable tourism certification scheme. Singapore aims to reach a certain percentage of hotels certified by accredited certification bodies, while Turkey has gone recently with an announcement that in the next few months will be a little bit louder, that they recently announced that they have laid a clear plan with steps to make sustainability certification gradually mandatory by 2030. And it's actually the first country in the world to say that. So until now, in all other countries, when we speak about certification, sustainability certification in tourism, it's voluntary. And then we have certain support and incentives. But Turkey has announced a few weeks ago that by 2030 it will be mandatory.
You said before that you have worked with Valencia and Sevilla in Spain. What do you think about Spain as destination, a sustainable destination?
Well, I think in that case, so let's say we've had the GSTC, we've had a number of cities being active and using the GSTC criteria. So Valencia is a recent, both destinations have, Valencia and Sevilla have joined, I think it was last year, joined GSTC and are actually quite active in that case. Valencia is doing fantastic things in regards to carbon footprint and aiming to be a carbon neutral city. And I highly recommend reading and learning more about this case. It's going to be a little bit too long if I would share too much details on that. And Sevilla also is one of is going to host the GSTC conference this year in December. So they are really, as part of it, they are really ramping up and supporting quite a lot of establishments. And we will have also, we plan to have some trainings before the conference and so forth. And then in other cases, we see a lot of Spanish firms and others ramping up and taking steps forward. And I think that your case, I think what you just shared at the beginning, that you've been influenced because many of the people that you work with care about these issues of sustainability because they come from the Nordic countries and they want to see it. So sometimes the reason for how it starts or where it starts is very diverse. And this is what's beautiful, because like that, we actually see a lot of different operations. So on an NTO level, I don't have too many comments, but on looking at sporadic areas within Spain, I see a lot of beautiful things happening.
Yeah, also for me as a very small company, it is very difficult sometimes to implement certain criteria and but I think one way to share the knowledge and to invite other people and companies to jump on the boat and to be more sustainable is also a way to be more sustainable. So that's why I also wanted to do this interview with you, because I think it's very important that people can listen firsthand from you what it means to be a destination which is working on sustainability. And it's very interesting also to hear your point of view. I'm very happy I'm doing this interview. So one question is, how important and challenging is measuring carbon print in the tourism industry? You just mentioned it with Valencia, that they are doing a really good job in this. I'm not really sure that destinations have all the tools to do this the right way and to show transparency to their inhabitants when it comes to facts and figures.
You're right. It's not easy, but it's doable. So eventually the process starts by agreeing on a methodology. How do you measure attributes related to carbon footprint, right? Because it's eventually something that we need to make a standardized or informed decision on what are the attributes and how do we measure them, right? Then we need to collect this data that relates to the attributes in the most accurate way we can do. And it's not easy, but some are doing it. And there are some also organizations that provide support on that specific issues. And maybe I can highlight one case where Innovation Norway, they have, it's been a while, but they're not so vocal about it. But it's a very interesting case where they have this CO2 rhythm, a tool for calculating the CO2 emissions caused by transport of tourists to and within Norway. So it allows Innovation Norway to actually judge both the potential tourist consumption and the CO2 emissions by combining the tourist consumption calculator. And it's very useful. We actually had a workshop about this in November, and the recording of this session is available on our YouTube channel. So anyone who is interested in that specific case, just go to the GSTC YouTube channel and you can find it. It was in part of a summit that was conducted by the British Columbia Tourism Association.
Okay, very interesting. Do you think that tourism will get back to mass tourism once all travel restrictions are taken off after the pandemic? Will we really be more conscious and act in consequence to our value, or is money more important than values? How can we find the right balance between both?
Well, will mass tourism come back? The answer, I think, of course, mass tourism is the mainstream tourism and it is returning. The question, as you later asked, is how are we going to do it? How are we going to let it be? And if we're actually able to mainstream sustainability in the travel and tourism world fast enough to make sure that all tourism activities are more sustainable, I think that's where our focus should be. Taking as, yes, there is mass tourism. There is a reason for that because the majority of people do make purchases and join groups and so forth. And we have a lot of people traveling like that, not necessarily looking and spending a lot of effort and time into looking every small details, just like we have many people eating not organic food while some people eating organic food. There are different preferences by travelers and customers. So it's up to us to make sure that the industry is just operating in a more sustainable manner.
Yes, I agree. What practical tips or suggestions do you have for those who want to engage with sustainable tourism business practices, but don't know where to start?
There's a lot of information out there, but this means that there's also a lot of accurate information and also kind of waste of time information. So it's kind of crucial to identify those that are credible. I personally just always suggest to start with the GSTC criteria. It's available publicly for free on our website and anyone can download it. And just by quickly reviewing it, you can get a sense of what's relevant in sustainability in tourism. Then afterwards, when you actually quickly reviewed it, you can actually go and learn and read all of it, and you can use it as a lighthouse to guide you on a way toward more sustainable operation. It can help you to assess your business, where your business stands at the moment. You mentioned a few things that you were looking into, what you're doing, how you can do some challenges. So exactly that's what you can do first. Just download and look at it, and then you can understand where you're standing, what you can quickly improve, these low-hanging fruits, and what might need a longer period of time to change, or perhaps you see yourself not able to do it. But I would say just start from that, and then use that along with other sources of information that you can find. Yeah.
Okay. Well, is there something else that you would like to share with us at the end of this interview?
I'd like to thank you for inviting me. I think it's quite important to have these conversations. And perhaps you'll do an interview with a person that have different opinions or different thoughts on how to address certain things from what I'm sharing here. And I think it's very healthy to hear all sorts of possibilities, and then for businesses and people to choose those that fit them the most and also fit what's better for the world.
Yes, absolutely. Well, thank you, Roy, very much for this interesting interview and explaining us what we can do in the travel industry to be more sustainable and how the GSTC can help us. I really enjoyed my training in sustainable tourism with your colleagues based in Chile, and I'm happy to share my experience with my followers. I'm sure that if we all do some efforts to make our world a better world, it will have a positive impact also in our lives. We only have one planet and it belongs to all of us. So my motto is doing better is way better than doing more. I don't know if you share this with me.
I like this. Yeah, yeah,
Do
I
you
like
like
it.
it?
Can I use it somewhere else?
Yes, of course.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah, so thank you so much. And I will see you all very soon in my next Max interview. So bye.
Bye-bye.